Welcome to Brother from Another. Always good to see Vinny Goodwill. And if you don't know him as Vinny Goodwill, maybe you grew up with him around the way. Maybe you went, you were in the same school, second or third grade with Vincent Goodwill. Were you Vincent Goodwill back there, or were you back then, or were you always Vinny? Vinny?
I was definitely Vincent, but I wasn't really answering to it. How about that? Does that make sense?
Oh man, even that early you weren't answering to it. Did you have another nickname? Growing up in the streets of Detroit, another nickname besides Vinny that you can share with us?
Yeah, there's nothing I can share. We'll just say that. Nothing I can share. My friends have given me a nickname. My sister has a nickname for me. But all I will say is I am Vinny because my daddy's name is the same name as mine. So I was never going to be Vincent because that was his name.
Okay, I get it. Now listen, we're talking about, I'm bringing up Detroit for a reason. And I just want to know what kind of Detroiter you are. Because, like some people, when their group, when their team, when their city is not getting support, some people want that support from the mainstream. They want it. They want you, hey, why aren't you paying attention to us? I think of soccer fans. They say they want the support. Hey, why aren't you talking about soccer? Hey, why aren't you talking about the World Cup? It's a beautiful game. You keep talking about basketball and football, but you're not talking about soccer, the real football. You don't know what you're missing. And then when you get on board with some of the soccer people, they be like, what the hell are you talking about? You don't even know what you're talking about. You don't know soccer. And I just wonder, Detroit, a lot of people made fun of Detroit. They still make fun of Detroit, made fun of the Lions. You make fun of the Lions. You left the Lions. But now that this is championship week, they're one win away, Vinny, from going to the Super Bowl. And I think I remember somebody who looked like you wearing a beautiful shirt like that, with a backdrop like yours, with a voice like yours, saying something like, I think I quote verbatim, they ain't going to no damn Super Bowl. I think that was said right here on Brother from Another. They ain't going to no damn Super Bowl. Stop that. So here they are, one win away from the Super Bowl. Are you excited that America loves Detroit? Or do you feel sorry for us? Do you feel sorry for the people who think the Lions are going to Vegas and going to represent all of us in the Super Bowl?
I'm trying to figure out who us is. Who's us? I just want clarity. Who's us?
Oh, hey, America loves Detroit right now. Haven't you heard this? America loves the Detroit Lions. This is the sentimental favorite. Maybe not the betting favorite, but the sentimental favorite. It's a great story. This team has never been one of the handful of teams. Some of the sorriest franchises out there have been to the Super Bowl, but the Detroit Lions, who've been around longer than you've been alive, longer than I've been alive, longer than Dan Campbell has been alive, have never been. Like, how could you not be excited? They've hosted a Super Bowl. Detroit has hosted 2 Super Bowls, but the Lions have never been to the Super Bowl. Come on, how could you not get excited about this underdog story? Everybody loves an underdog, Vinny.
Well, it's funny. You're not because no. See. Don't back me into a corner. I won't say I'm not impressed. What I will say is, look. It's been an impressive season. It's been an impressive run. There's a saying that we have in Detroit. It's become branded, and you will see a bunch of people with hoodies and T-shirts and stuff like that. It's called Detroit versus everybody. And the scenario that you are painting presents a picture that is the antithesis of Detroit versus everybody, because everybody wants to get on board. Dan Campbell has said, there's no more seats on this bandwagon. I'm not coming on. Y'all go ahead. That's fine. Am I happy for Detroit Lions fans? Absolutely. You have stuck with this toxic relationship for decades and decades, and has given you nothing. And now you are finally starting to reap some of the rewards, right?
It's changed. Right. The relationship
look, this season
now.
This is a successful season for the Lions, even if they get blown out by the San Francisco 49ers this weekend. Even if they get whacked.
That's the problem. That's the problem. You're the problem. You're the problem.
No.
It's not the Lions. It's you. It's you. You're the problem. Because
I just presented a scenario that's positive. That me
no, it's
and
not.
all of my yes, it is.
You said even if they get blown out. That's one of those relationship-wise. Here's a relationship tip. That's from the previous relationship. You're bringing something from the previous relationship to the beautiful thing that's happening right now. Like y'all out to dinner, and then you're saying something like, "Hey, even if you leave me, or even if you stab me in the back, even if you disrespect me, this has been fun." And she's like, "Wait a minute. I haven't talked about leaving you. I haven't disrespected. Why would you say that? Where is that coming from? That's from your previous relationship. That's from the Shampoo Chronicles, whatever you had going on in your apartment back in the day with the whole thing. That's from that era." Oh, you thought I forgot about that? I caught you off guard with that one. You thought I forgot about that? No, I didn't forget.
Touche. Yeah.
Some good stories. Some good stories, Vinny.
Yeah.
But see, this is new. This is new. This has legs. This is a relationship that doesn't have to end with a depressing Detroit winter. This relationship is going to Vegas.
Are you wait? Let's stop all this hyperbole. Stop all this hyperbole. Stop all this nonsense. Cut the music.
Why
cut the music.
Okay.
Are you telling me on Al Gore's internet on this here day that come Sunday at 9:30 Eastern time when the game is expected to be over? Are you telling me that the Detroit Lions will walk out of Santa Clara, NFC champions, going to Las Vegas for the Super Bowl? Or are you just saying, "Oh, let's just celebrate Detroit and everything else"? Are you telling me that Detroit is actually going to win the game?
It's a new day.
No.
It's a new day.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, I'm telling you, they're going to win the game. I'm telling you, they're going to win the game. I'm telling you, the Lions will win the game. And will they walk out? Not only will they walk out, they will walk out. They will have great posture. They will be smiling. Heads. Keep your head to the sky. I know that's not a Detroit group, but hey, close enough. All right, shout out, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Keep your head to the sky because the Detroit Lions are the better team. They're the better team.
Wow.
They're going to win the game. And,
are you saying
sometimes
better as in unequivocally better as in healthier, better as in playing at the right time?
No.
Are you telling me that they're just flat out better roster, man for man, better coaching? I just need to hear that. I just need to hear you say that.
Okay. All right, this has happened a few times. In NFL history, conference championship games and Super Bowls. It's happened in Super Bowls a few times where in the moment you look at one team that has a better reputation, that's got all the Pro Bowlers, that has all the ink, has all the attention, and you think they are playing a team that doesn't have that, and you think they're much better. But history is kind to that team that is usually ignored and kind of disrespected. History is kind to them because we come back in 5 years and 10 years and say, "Oh, wait a minute. Oh, they had them? They had them?" I'm telling you, Vinny, when you look back, you're going to say they had Laporta, they had Gibbs, they had Sewell and Decker and Ragnow on the offensive line. They had Aiden Hutchinson. You're going to look at these players and say, we didn't know that they were just ascending. They were just ascending at the right time. And we talked so much about San Francisco's talent. They had Amon-Ra St. Brown, who shockingly didn't make the Pro Bowl. Are you kidding me? We talk about Brandon Ayuk. I'd take St. Brown over Ayuk. Yeah, I said it. I'd take St. Brown over Ayuk. And let me go even further. I'd take him over Debo. Why? Because he's available. His availability, his reliability is higher than Debo's. Debo's ceiling is higher. Debo's highlights are better. But if I don't want highlights, I don't want ceiling. It's all, you know this. You know it much better than I do. Detroit, you know what Detroit wants? So you don't have to worry about this. Y'all in LA, you in San Diego, you in Miami. You don't know what I'm talking about, but Vinny knows. Because Vinny grew up in Detroit. I grew up in Akron, Ohio. It's cold, like January, it's cold. You know what you want? You don't want a nice looking car. You want a car that on a cold day in January, you get in that thing, it will start. I need my car to start. I need my heat to be on. I don't need the look. I need substance. Detroit Lions are substance. San Francisco 49ers have the look. Woo! Woo! I can't wait till Sunday. Hey, go ahead, text me. Text me, because you're always good for some ignorant text. I see that sign still behind you, that little Michigan sign. You're always good for some ignorant text when Ohio State is losing to Michigan. You've been good for that the last 3 years, but why don't you send me a text on Sunday night? I look forward to it.
I don't know what you want the text to say. I think you are giving the San Francisco 49ers, I think you're not giving them enough credit. I think you're looking at the names and pretending that this is not a tough football team. Like the San Francisco 49ers have been a quarterback away from basically being the best team in football the past few years.
Oh, is that right?
Am I wrong? Wait, am I wrong?
What? Wait a minute. Let me just check here, because I thought Brock Purdy was on the Tom Brady track. What happened?
I'm sorry. Did Brock Purdy play in the playoff game last year that the 49ers also was he hurt?
He did. He played.
Did he play?
Played.
Did he really play?
He played.
Did he really play?
Briefly.
He
played. He got hurt. Yeah. He got hurt. He got hurt in the game, but he played.
Y'all see what he does? Y'all see what he does?
I'm saying he played in the game and he got hurt.
Okay.
Hey,
he played in the game and then he got hurt.
It's like Debo played in the game against the Packers. He played and he got hurt. So that happens in football. You know, you play in the game. It's a very physical sport. Guys are bigger, faster, stronger than they've ever been. And sometimes you get hurt. But I'm telling you, I'm excited.
No, because you've been disingenuous long enough. You've been disingenuous long enough. He's talking about big and strong and healthy. Like we ain't see Frank Ragnow get his leg run up under 2 times last week. Saying bigger and stronger and healthier. Like we didn't see Sam Laporta get hurt and then re-hurt, and they got to put heating packs on his knee while the Lions are on defense. So don't play and act like the Lions don't have big-time holes.
They do have injuries.
Health.
They do, but they just don't whine about it. And if they lose the game, they're not going to whine about it and say, hey, if we had Laporta, if we had Ragnow, we would have won. We're really the best team, and somebody else goes to the Super Bowl. That's why I can't stand the 49ers. You're right. I have a little thing against them because they just never accept what happens. They never accept what happens. So I look forward to the game. I'm not saying they're chumps, the Niners. Obviously a good team. They're the number 1 seed in the NFC. It's going to take Dan Campbell's best game. It's going to take the Lions' best game to come out of here with the victory. But I do expect them to win this game. It'll be a classic. But I like Detroit. And then what are you going to do, Vinny? Like, what are you going to do? What's your mind is just going to explode because you can't even reconcile the Detroit Lions as conference champions. The Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl. You don't even know what to do with that. What are you going to do? You haven't thought about it because you don't think it's going to happen. You don't believe.
I'm going to go on and live and, pretty much pretend like, like I didn't expect it to happen because I don't expect it to happen. It is not inconceivable to see the Lions go to the Super Bowl, right? I won't be in Las Vegas for it. I want to be very clear. I quit the Detroit Lions on July 27th, 1999. I quit them. And it was further cemented by the Lions fans who, on that day and subsequent weeks after, they buried Barry Sanders. They blamed him. That was the reason I would never come back to the Lions as a fan. I feel nothing when I watch them play. If I feel anything, I feel happiness for the people who have stuck with them, right? I think, some of those aerial shots, the Sunday Night Football shots, both games have been on NBC. So you get the nice drones and it's flying over downtown and it's showing, Detroit downtown being revitalized, and you get all the Motown music on the bumpers and all that stuff. Really cool.
I like
right?
it.
Really, really cool. No problem against Mike Tirico, a guy who, lives in Ann Arbor, which is about an hour away. He's taken up the flag for Detroit and is able to give a lot of context to long-suffering Lions fans. But now that you remove emotion from it, and you got to play football, you're not playing against 50 years of futility. You're not in 144 decibels and all that inside that dome at Ford Field. You're not at that. You're at Levi Stadium. You're in hostile territory. You're not going against Baker Mayfield. You're going against Brock Purdy. I'm not
Levi
saying
Stadium is set. What about Santa Clara?
It's not friendly. It ain't friendly confines.
Okay.
It ain't friendly confines. I will say that there's one slight parallel.
They too bougie to be hostile in Santa. They too bougie. They ain't hostile.
Okay, I'm gonna let you know
they're
something.
Condescending. They're condescending.
Detroit got bougie too, in case you didn't know. And if Detroit goes to the Super Bowl, y'all will see all of bougie in Las Vegas. And y'all be like, where'd this bougie come from? I didn't know Detroit had this bougie. Yes, there's black bougie in Detroit. Here's where I will give you one compliment about the Lions and one parallel. Okay. I'll give you one parallel. You ready?
All right. I'm ready.
1992, the Dallas Cowboys, the upstart Dallas Cowboys, walked into Candlestick Park against the Standard, the San Francisco 49ers. Steve Young, Jerry Rice, John Taylor, all those guys. And you knew that the Cowboys had guys on the come up, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman. They weren't the household names to that point. They were just a team that was on the move. And they shocked the 49ers. If I remember in that game, the 49ers were favored by, 7-10. Like, it was not expected that Dallas would come in, win that game, win the Super Bowl, win 3 of the next 4 Super Bowls or as in a whole. So, yeah, I can see there being a symbolic changing of the guard, so to speak. I will give the parallels that. But I will also say you have to be very careful to buy into narrative. You have to be very, very careful to buy into storyline, because Tampa Bay wasn't that good, and they were a drive away from tying that game, right? The Rams have been a mess all year, and if they just got one stop, you get Stafford the ball. Only say one stop.
Yeah.
If they call that pass interference on third down on that last Rams drive, we're having a completely different discussion. So it's not like the Lions have been dominating. They've been winning playoff games, which you do not have to apologize for, especially when you've won one playoff game before this in the past 60 damn years. But let's not pretend like this team is flawless. Let's not pretend like San Francisco doesn't have strength up the middle as far as their defense. What do the Lions do when they're exploiting your defense? They work up the middle. They work in the tight ends. They work in Laporta. They work in Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think you're going to be working up the middle against the San Francisco defense. You're going to have to work the outside. You're going to have to make Jared Goff actually beat you. And I'm not saying he's incapable, but I'm saying that is the best route for success for San Francisco. And if Jared Goff beats you, I will applaud him from afar, and San Francisco will have to tip their cap.
All right. Okay. It's just really interesting.
That's logic, right? That's logic. That's not emotion.
That is. It's good logic.
Narrative,
it's good logic.
None of that.
No, it's good. None of that. I just, speaking of narrative, and a lot of football is about narrative. I'm being serious here. A lot of it is about narrative, and sometimes it works in my favor. I'll perpetuate a narrative that I know is not, okay, that's not necessarily the whole truth. It's just the truth right now. But, is this sustainable? Sometimes it works in my favor. Sometimes it doesn't. I'll just say this, and we'll move on to another topic. You got a lot to get to. Why don't we assume that Brock Purdy, who was drafted in 2022, right? Last pick in 2022, like just a couple years ago. Why do we assume that he is who he appears to be, who he appeared to be the first 20-something games of his career, as opposed to what he's been lately? He's like Jared Goff has had good stretches too, but Jared Goff's body of work makes people say, oh, he's good if he's in the right situation, if he's got the right coaching. They'll give context to Jared Goff because there's a large body of work. But with Brock Purdy, we assume that the body of work, very limited, is the real thing. In other words, I don't know if Brock Purdy is better than Jared Goff. I don't know that. They might be even. Goff might be better than Purdy. Nobody says that. Why not? He might be better than Purdy. Purdy, I don't know what he's going to be in 2 years. I don't think he's going to be an MVP candidate. I don't think we'll be talking about him in the top 5 like we were earlier this year. He was an MVP candidate. He was a favorite at one point. Mm-hmm. I don't think we'll say, oh, it's Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Brock Purdy. I don't think so. So that's another important matchup that I'll be watching. How does Goff play? Goff's been to a Super Bowl. How does Goff play in that big game? He's been in a conference championship and he's won it. Brock Purdy has been in a conference championship game. He got hurt, not his fault. And then he had his storytellers make excuses for him for a year.
Look at you. Look at you. Look at
Anyway, I'm done with it. I'm done with it.
That hate is emanating.
I'm done.
That like it's literally like you are sitting outside near one of those heated benches and you just see smoke coming from your head. You are an unabashed hater.
Yeah,
I get it.
And speaking of,
I respect.
Can I tag on to it? Can I tag on to the hate really briefly? Brief hate topic. I just want to hear what you have to say about it. Because can we get a shot, really, of that Vinny sign again? I just want everybody to know, if you're not a regular follower of the program, behind him, he's got New Day, and he's got 117-74. That is the aggregate. Michigan versus Ohio State the last 3 years. Michigan 117, Ohio State 74. 0-3 for Ohio State. Ryan Day, 3 straight losses against Harbaugh and Michigan. Not even Harbaugh. 2 against Harbaugh, 1 against Sharon Moore. He even lost to Sharon Moore. He lost to their OC. Oh, man, that's just bad. Anyway, I want to know what you have to say about Harbaugh, a Michigan man. Oh, I'm a good Michigan man. I played there, got us to a national championship, undefeated. Hey, listen, I'm not worried about the NFL. I'm right here in Michigan. He's going to the pros. I just wonder how you feel about your coach going to the pros and leaving a program behind that is going to be dealing with some NCAA sanctions. He hit it and quit it, bruh. I mean, he got in, he got his championship. Now he's out. I'm just wondering, is this good? You happy for Harbaugh? Good for, like, what? I just want to hear just give me some words on Harbaugh and Michigan.
You are trying to back me into a corner.
I'm just asking you a question. I just asked you.
Look, our producer, Gary Carter, he is a D.C. native. You know who else is a D.C. native? Sugar Ray Leonard. When Sugar Ray Leonard got backed into a corner by a marvelous Marvin Hagler, you know what he did? He punched himself out, right? He punched himself out of the corner. He boxed himself out of a corner. So here's what I'm going to do. Michigan is the national champion, the reigning national champion. It has sent Ohio State spiraling to the transfer portal and to the assistant coach portal to the point. When's the last time y'all won a game? Last time y'all beat Michigan was last decade. Okay. Somewhere in 2019. Right. And then a couple years before that, people don't want to remember, there was trouble with the spot. Remember how close that spot was where those Ohio State officials, granted y'all a spot that y'all shouldn't have? Okay, cool. If Jim Harbaugh leaves Michigan with 3 straight wins on Ohio State over his jacket for a total score of 117-74, right? And a national championship and consecutive undefeated regular seasons and 3 straight college football playoff appearances. He's done his job. He can go and say mission accomplished. Jim Harbaugh is one of the best coaches in football. He's one of the best coaches football has ever seen. College, pros, people play for him. Yeah, he is.
We've seen a lot of coaches. College football been around for a long time. We've seen a lot of coaches. We've seen a lot of coaches.
Okay. I'm sorry. We call Pete Carroll one of the greatest football coaches football's ever seen.
That's what I'm saying. And he was in college.
In a Super Bowl. And Jim Harbaugh has won a national title and come within a whisker of winning the Super Bowl against his brother. And going to
came a whisper away.
NFC.
I love that. He came a whisper away.
3-4.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
see, that's the story. That's how the story goes. See, that's how the story goes when you.
You know the story?
No, I'm just saying.
You know the story, y'all?
Everything.
Y'all know the story?
I know the story. I know it. I've seen the sign.
Story?
I've seen it.
You know the story?
I've seen enough of it. I told you it was brief.
1774. You say nothing. You sit in the corner. You sit at the kiddie table. You say nothing.
I don't mind
the
the
next
kiddie table.
11 months. You say nothing.
I don't mind the kiddie table. Okay, we'll see. I'll say something when the penalty comes out. But
you?
y'all won't care about the penalty.
How dare you
we don't care about the penalty.
Face.
We got our national championship. Ohio State's got national championships too. We got multiple national championships. Multiple championships this decade.
Hold on.
This century.
Hold on.
What?
Memory just came. Memory just serves. I feel like something just came to the Starship Fleet inside the USS Menal. You know what happened? Didn't Ohio State get some games vacated? Didn't they get a national title vacated by the NCAA for the gold pants? Oh, no, it's a Fiesta Bowl. It's a Fiesta Bowl. I was like, y'all didn't win anything that year. Y'all just did all that to win a Fiesta Bowl over some gold pants. So if you want to play holy, Ohio State is not the
no, I don't.
You want to play
I don't.
Holy.
It's just the opposite. It is unholy. It is unholy. It is a football school all the way. These athletes, Cardell Jones.
The nerve.
I love the poet Cardell Jones. He said, I major in football. I came to Ohio State to major in football. That's the spirit. That's the energy I'm looking for. I need more people like that. If Kyle McCord thought that way, maybe he wouldn't have run off to Syracuse. Maybe he would have been able to go into Ann Arbor and get a victory. Anyway, I'm moving on.
CJ
I want to talk
one of
about
the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Can't get a win against a Harbaugh. Isn't that poetic?
I'm trying to move on. See, man, I'm trying to move on. You just keep bringing up old stuff. Why you keep bringing up old stuff? All right. I do want to ask you about this. Speaking of some underhanded tactics, like what you're doing here is just fun. That's fun. Okay, I understand what you're doing with your sign. But some truly underhanded tactics went down yesterday in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is underhanded. Vinny, so Adrian Griffin, rookie coach, I'm really old enough to tell you that I covered him. Way back when I was covering the NBA and I was covering the Boston Celtics, Adrian Griffin was on the Celtics. As a matter of fact, I saw Vince Carter kind of hit a buzzer beater. Right? It was like 10, 15 feet away from me. Vince Carter buzzer beater right over Adrian Griffin, who played good defense, but Vince Carter got the better of him. Anyway, great guy. Was even as a player, a coach on the floor, that kind of guy. You talked about him that way. Rookie coach, second best record in the NBA. I'm not saying he was perfect. We know he wasn't. But they fired Adrian Griffin and they replaced him with a consultant that they paired him up with. Hey, brother, you need a mentor. Let me get you a mentor. Hey, how about Doc Rivers? He's not a threat. He's on TV. He's a coach on TV. Like, he's been through it. He's been through Orlando. We did the count, right? Orlando, Boston, the Clippers, Philly, 4-time coach. Now he's in the next phase of his career, broadcasting. How about we bring in this consultant, Doc Rivers, to help you out? And a month later, Doc Rivers is replacing Adrian Griffin. The consultant now has the job, and I'll say it's underhanded, not by Doc, but by the Bucks, because they're kind of floating it out there. I'm reading some of this stuff
where they say, oh, well, we had an opportunity to get an upgrade. That math ain't mathing. Doc Rivers was fired in May of 2023. He was fired in May, meaning he was available in May. Adrian Griffin was hired in June, meaning there was a space where you want an upgrade. I could tell you before it even starts, I can tell you that Doc Rivers is an upgrade over Adrian Griffin. Why'd you hire the dude? Doc Rivers was available. Now you change your mind. I think that's a bunch of BS. I don't like the way it went down. I respect Doc as a motivator, as a leader, but something is rotten in Denmark. Something is rotten. What do you think, Vinny?
I think there is a lot to be dissected here. I think from the standpoint of Adrian Griffin, from the standpoint of any coach, here's my thinking, especially if you are a franchise and win now mode. If you're in a franchise and win now mode, you have a very hard sell in hiring a coach who's never coached before. But if you have determined that this coach is not going to help you get to the NBA Finals, at the very least, that's what the Milwaukee Bucks should be trying to get to. They've won one playoff series since winning the NBA title in 2021. One playoff series, right? That was on Mike Budenholzer's watch. He got fired. You don't have time to say, okay, we're going to give you the season. I've seen so many people say, just give them the season. This ain't charity. If you've made the decision, if your players have internally made the decision, this guy ain't it, then you have to move on. It's ugly. Wow. It ain't pretty, all those things. But clearly it was two things. One, Giannis Antetokounmpo was the driving force behind the Adrian Griffin hiring, right? Nick Nurse was supposedly a leader in the clubhouse, and then he was nowhere to be found after that, and then he surfaced in Philadelphia. That to me says, hey man, I don't like this dude. I think we should hire Adrian Griffin. And Giannis being a guy who has threatened, to leave via free agency when his contract was up and you're trying to get him to sign an extension so he can hang around. And then shortly after you hire the coach, he signs his extension. Yeah, if we're playing a game of Clue, I know who did it. Yeah. I know what weapon was used. Okay. But Amen. Just because that was the case, doesn't mean that you as an organization have to be completely tied to it. And because after a 30-13 mark or whatever the record was, and we have all this evidence over the past couple of months, we've been hearing stuff about Adrian Griffin and his job being in jeopardy almost since the first month of the season, which is very, very, very rare. So that points to me and says that the organization was not fully behind him to begin with, that pretty much maybe Giannis in the locker room initially was, and then things started to crumble a little bit. And it's not a situation like Joe Mazzulla in Boston where Mazzulla was selected by the front office. This feels like Giannis had the strongest voice there. The organization went behind him, and they didn't necessarily have the full support beyond, hey, this is just what our player wants. Now you look at on the floor, their defense was bad. The defense was bad. Their strength of schedule was the easiest schedule in the league, and they've been blown out by the Utah Jazz. They've been blown out by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then subsequently, they will go and blow out the Boston Celtics on national TV to the point that the Celtics starters are sitting to start the second half of games. That shows you the firepower. And if we're going to point to Doc Rivers, who was a quote-unquote consultant after the in-season tournament, Doc Rivers didn't walk in there himself. Somebody else had to bring him in there, okay? Someone else had to ask him for his counsel, okay? All right, cool. Usually, I don't think they brought Doc to tell them something that they didn't feel like they already knew, okay? Doc wasn't going to go in there and observe something and say, hey, you guys are doing it wrong. They literally brought him in there as a matter of seemingly a confirmation bias. You know what confirmation bias is, right? Because we are people of first impression. We know what we know, we know what we observe, and then we find ways to confirm it through other voices or other outside evidence. And the other outside evidence was Doc Rivers. I will say this about Doc Rivers walking into this situation. He has failed to bring the title to the Clippers. He failed to elevate the Philadelphia 76ers over the hump. And some of that will lay directly at his feet, but not all. With the Clippers, your two main stars, you had to worry about one of them choking and one of them being healthy. And Philadelphia, you had to worry about both of your stars choking and maybe one of them not being healthy. I don't think you have to worry about in Milwaukee, both of your stars showing up to play.
That's a good point.
We've seen Dame Lillard in great moments. We've seen Giannis put up a 50 ball in a clinching game of the NBA Finals. So I'm not worried about Doc with those guys. I think Doc will go in and he will set a hierarchy and he will get some structure with that defense. I don't think he's necessarily a great defensive coach, but I do think they will set more of a structure that was not present and provide some leadership that maybe Adrian Griffin did not feel like he knew how to assert himself at the right times, being a rookie coach for the first time in his career. It's a lot going on here. And I just think we're gonna accuse Doc Rivers of dirty macking. We're gonna accuse Doc of stabbing him in the front. I don't know if that necessarily happened. I just think that the Bucks were off of Adrian Griffin really, really early. Because to be 30-13 and to fire a coach, that means that you're seeing things, you're hearing things that don't jive with the record.
Let's go in. We've talked about Adrian Griffin. We talked about Doc. You mentioned this guy. You mentioned Giannis. But let's get back let's get back in here. Giannis, this is on you now. If you wanted Adrian Griffin, then you didn't want Adrian Griffin. You didn't want Nick Nurse. Now you want Doc Rivers. Hey, I need the Bucks. You say on a podcast, I need the Bucks to show me that they're serious about winning. Or, hey, I'm not, listen, I may go somewhere else. Show me. They show you. Not only did they show you, they listen to you. So now it's time for Giannis to deliver. I thought he was in a good place when I saw one of the great performances, top 20. I don't want to go too far, but top 20 finals performances ever. Winning and losing teams. Top 10.
Higher than that.
All right, one of the top 10. One of the top 10 finals performances in the history of basketball. Game 6, 50 points, and making his free throws after struggling throughout the series. I mean, just really clinching, nailing it down. Awesome. I thought that, like other greats, whether it's Michael or Magic or LeBron or Steph, they win one and they kind of want to hoard some. Some. I don't know what you heard.
You're trying to be slick. You're trying to be slick.
Okay. All right. They want to do that.
To be slick.
And it's multiple. They get multiple championships. But Giannis, after that, after 2021, then you lose in the second round. I know, had some injuries, but you lose in the second round. Then you lose in the first round to Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, losing the first round. Jimmy Butler going off. Giannis, defensive player, great former defensive player of the year, MVP. And you've got Drew Holiday checking Jimmy Butler. I know it's a bad matchup, all this stuff, but Vinny, what I'm trying to say is you got to take some ownership. If you're Giannis, this is your team. You've made it clear it's your team. You're the guy. You're the MVP. You're the defensive player of the year. We hold those guys to very high standards, and he's come up small the last 2 years. In that Miami series, down the stretch, who's got the ball? Who's got the ball at the end? It's Grayson Allen. It's Giannis passing off because he didn't want to get fouled. Grayson Allen is holding the ball as the Milwaukee Bucks are eliminated from the playoffs. You got to step up, Giannis. This is on you now. You've got your coaches out and in. You got your contract. Show me something now. Show me something. I'm a little disappointed in Giannis, Vinny, if you haven't heard me.
Disappointed. That's interesting. That is interesting. Because we want players to take ownership. We want players to have their stamp, not only on the franchise,
but don't make excuses. Game. But don't take ownership without scapegoating.
We haven't heard Giannis speak yet. We haven't heard him speak yet. We don't know.
You talked about the game of Clue. You talked about the game of Clue. Hey, I'll take everything back if he says, look,
I hired Adrian Griffin. We know it. I hired him, and I made a mistake. This is on me. Okay, this is on me.
He's not.
I hired the guy,
and you know it. And
you know it. I know he won't.
You know he's not going to say that. And nobody hoards championships nowadays. In case you didn't know, last 5 years, 5 different NBA champions, and since 2019, Toronto, the Lakers, the Bucks, Golden State, and the Denver Nuggets. Nobody's hoarding championships anymore. But I do think it speaks to the urgency.
But except those guys you named, though, except those guys that you named, all those guys from those teams do have multiples. So Kawhi, multiples. Okay, LeBron, obviously multiples. Giannis, no. Steph, yes. And now Jokic doesn't. But Jokic might. Jokic just won it, recent winner. We'll see what happens with him. It's just it's a different club. You know that. It's just a different level.
Are you saying that a man who's 29 years old at the near peak of his athletic powers is not going to get back to the NBA Finals this year? Are you telling me, Mr. Boston himself, are you telling me that the 3-point happy Boston Celtics are going back to the NBA Finals this year? Is that what you're telling me? Regardless of coaching, regardless of personnel moves? Because the Miami Heat just acquired Terry Rozier yesterday, too. And I'm not saying that there's coincidences. I'm just saying Scary Terry landed in Miami midday or early morning, and Adrian Griffin was out by mid-afternoon. I'm not saying they're related. I'm just saying it happened on the same day. But are you telling me?
And what I'm telling you, you're going on the right path.
Not going to the NBA Finals? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I am, because I don't think it's just Boston and Milwaukee. I don't know what Doc's going to do with them. He's got a lot of work to do. It's not like you just plug in Doc Rivers and okay, they figure out the Giannis, Dame. Offensively, as you said, offensively it's fine. Defensively, it's a mess. It's a mess. Doc is a great offensive coach. They don't need him there. They might need his leadership. They might need him to define what the roles are and give that spiel that he has done many times successfully of telling players, star players, all who are used to having the ball, hey, you're going to have the ball. You're going to take fewer shots. It's not going to look like it's always looked, but it's going to be for the greater good. He can do that. I don't know who he's going to bring in as his defensive guru to get these guys on board. And even if he does bring in a guru, is Dame Lillard going to ball? Is D somebody up? Is Middleton going to do that at this point?
That ain't what he's paying for. That's not what you're paying Damian Lillard to do. You're not paying him to be Drew Holiday. If you wanted him to be Drew Holiday, you would have kept Drew Holiday, right?
Right.
You want Dame to be Dame. This has become an increasingly offensive-oriented game. And during critical moments last year and the year before, we saw that the Bucks had problems scoring. Now, some of that's because Chris Middleton has been hurt, so now you slide him down to a third option. It makes sense. All this makes sense on paper. But to me, what this comes down to, a lot of this comes down to his credibility. Doc Rivers can say the same things that Adrian Griffin said, but because he has championship bona fides, because he's not a first-year head coach, because he doesn't have to look at them and say, I haven't accomplished as much in my seat as they have accomplished in their roles. You got to be careful about knowing you can walk into a locker room and you're the boss, but you're not in charge. That's a fine line to walk, because we know who's in charge there, right? Giannis is in charge. And this is NBA teams as a whole. This is not Giannis specific. This is Steph Curry's in charge in Golden State. All right? Like, this is what happens. LeBron's in charge. All these other different
LeBron's
teams.
in charge. Right.
LeBron's always in charge. He literally is the coach. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. So you have to be careful, and you have to walk in with the experience to be able to get guys to follow you. Like, guys, like some coaches will be incompetent, but because they believe in the coach, whether it's force of personality or his experience, they'll go behind him. But if you don't believe in what he's saying and you also don't feel like he has the credibility to say what he says, then that's where you come up with an issue. And not saying that that's what happened there, but I don't think that Doc Rivers will have a credibility problem in Milwaukee. There will be other issues to come up because this is not a perfectly constructed team.
I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. Now you mentioned, hey, am I saying the Bucks won't be in the NBA Finals? Yes, I am saying that because it's not just about Boston or Milwaukee. Miami, I have great respect for Miami. You always have to pay attention to Miami.
Yes.
Cleveland's won 8 games in a row. I don't know if they've got what it takes or just a nice.
You ain't tripping.
I'm not worried about Cleveland.
You ain't tripping on that.
Or let me go here. The man just scored 70 points. He just scored 70 points.
Yeah, okay.
And I know it was against the terrible Spurs. He and Michael Jordan, the only 2 players in the history of the NBA to have a game in which you got 65 points, at least 65 points, and at least 15 rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan did that against the Cavaliers, 69 and 18, I think it was. Oof. Goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Cavaliers couldn't figure it out with Jordan. But Joel Embiid, he could always score, but now he's taking it up even higher. They got Nick Nurse. You mentioned him earlier. They are a team that they look a little different. They look like they have figured it out. They got the Ben Simmons drama is behind them. The James Harden drama is behind them. Tyrese Maxey has emerged. Do you look at Embiid in Philly and say, oh yeah, I'm down. That's a finals team. They got finals ability. Do you look at them that way?
No, I don't.
Whoa. Why not?
I don't.
Why?
Okay, I'm going to put this very delicately so that the Philadelphia fans don't think that I'm hating on their guy. I think Joel Embiid.
Oh boy, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good.
I think he's doing spectacular work, right? It's indicative of a new era of the NBA, and I wrote about it, and it's very rare you see guys on the same night scoring 60 points. You know what I mean? He and Karl Towns. And, teams are scoring more than they've ever scored. Joel Embiid averaging 30 points this year, 35 points, after 33 last year, after 30 the year before. And from a skill set standpoint, as a scorer, not many in the league's history can say that they are on par with him. Mm-hmm. My belief is the regular season sets the standard, the baseline for how stars should perform during the playoffs. And if you are averaging 35 a night during the playoffs, that is the lowest that you can average. Not because I'm just expecting more of you, but you can't have 10-point drop-offs in the postseason like Joel Embiid has had, plus the injuries. Because guess what? If you have a drop-off during the playoffs, I'm asking players who have not been thrust into leading positions not only to raise their game, but to pick up your slack as well. That's not how it usually goes in the playoffs. Magic Johnson stepped up his game. Larry Bird stepped up his game. Talk about Steph Curry, Isaiah Thomas, of course, Michael Jordan. The years that Jordan averaged 30 and was doing all that work, he didn't average less in the postseason. I mean, at least not until he played Detroit. But he raised his game.
Nice.
He raised
nice
his
job.
game.
Nice job. Nice job.
Facts are the facts. I can't help the facts being the facts. But Mike raised his game. He averaged 33 during the regular season. All right, cool, averaged 37. But it's not about the numbers. It's about the expectations. It's about being able to throw you the ball and you're saying, jump on my back. We're winning this game. We're winning this series. I have yet to see Joel Embiid do that. So when you ask me, do I consider Philly in the same category as the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat, the Milwaukee Bucks? All those teams have at least conference finals appearances. All those teams have represented the Eastern Conference and the NBA Finals in the last 5 years with leading players who are still there. The Philadelphia 76ers have yet to break through. They have yet to break through past the second damn round. So I don't consider them there. And is it impossible? It's not impossible. But if past history is the greatest indicator for future outcomes, we know what's going to happen.
Okay.
If that's the case. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen because Philly fans is going to say, Vinny Embiid is a choker. Benny is saying that the way Philadelphia is playing now, Joel Embiid being this type of dominant scorer, you're going to ask him to be just as dominant, if not more. And history has shown us that it is hard for him to keep up that high level of performance.
You know, it's funny. We talked about nicknames off the top of the show, the nicknames that you had growing up, and you couldn't share some of them. I think Philly fans may have some nicknames for you too, that maybe we can't talk about those nicknames too, especially after what you just said. And I agree with you. I agree with what you said, because I asked you about Philly. I set the table. I set it up, and I passed you. Just gave it to you, let you cook. But you know what? I agree with you, Vinny. I agree with you. I don't take Philadelphia seriously. I don't take them seriously. I look at all those numbers and all those performances. I need to see it. I need to see it. I need to see it when it matters. I've just been fooled by Philly too many times to say, oh, this is different.
Why have you been fooled?
Different.
Why did you believe?
Well, I would belief is not, that's too strong. It's not belief like, oh, yeah, you know, I'm going to take some time out, carve out some time. Hey, here's Philly. Philly in a big moment. Here we go. Check it out. This should be a good one. No. How about last year? They're up 3-2. They're up 3-2 on the Celtics. 3-2 with a game at home. Closeout game at home. So they lose that one. But hey, we're up 3-2. We put ourselves in this position. Hey, we know we can beat this team. Going to game 7. Ha! No show. No show in game 7. I mean, the Ben Simmons scapegoat game. Also in a game 7 against, because, you know, everybody's got a story about a game 7 showdown with the Atlanta Hawks. No, they don't. Not since Dominique Wilkins was there. Come on. So they got a game 7 showdown with the Atlanta Hawks. They lose. It wasn't just Ben Simmons passing up a dunk, y'all. They love that in Philly. Just keep in mind, hey, Ben Simmons, he passed up a dunk. But why were y'all in a game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks? Well, you're the better team. So I'm with you. I don't take it seriously. Another thing I don't take seriously,
I don't think they can't get there. I'm just saying they haven't gotten there, and I will need to see overwhelming evidence before I'm just going to blindly jump on and say that they can do it.
All right, here's another thing I don't believe in. I'm going to say this. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't say this. If I were still covering the NBA, I wouldn't say this because, you know, a brother's got to have sources, okay? Brother's got to, you know, you got to play the game a little bit as a beat writer or as an NBA columnist. You can't just torch everybody. You can't go scorched earth. You got to have sources. But I'll say it now. I do not believe in NBA officiating. I think it is at its absolute worst, the worst I've ever seen. And is that hyperbole, or can I show my work? Can I show my work? Did I just see, Vinny? Here are two things. Did I just see a last 2 minute report? That it's their information. I didn't make this up. This is from the NBA. A last 2 minute report. They said there were 10 missed calls in the last 2 minutes. 10 missed calls. I mean, okay, we all make mistakes. A couple of them. 10. So 10 missed calls. That's one. And then 2, last night, Chauncey Billups and the Blazers, who are terrible. The Blazers are terrible, but they're protesting a game. They felt like they were playing a good opponent. For once in the fourth quarter, with less than a minute to play, they're winning. Chauncey Billups tries to call a timeout. They don't grant him a timeout. Why didn't they grant him a timeout? The officials say in a pool report, it's really hard to hear. Yeah, for the dude getting a beer. Yeah, for the dude who's like talking trash. Yeah, for somebody who's like doing a selfie at the critical moment of the game. You an official. You getting paid. You can't hear him. You can't. Benny, come on, man. Come on. Hey, I know you've seen a lot of basketball. Has officiating ever been so questionable? Has it ever been so fraught? Has it ever been so fragile? I'm being diplomatic.
I think that's the word. I think that's
the word. As it is
fragile.
right now.
I think the word fragile applies because there has been an influx of younger, newer officials. That's why you see quicker technical fouls, the taunting technical fouls, maybe not understanding flow of the game and sort of how to let stuff go. And then, things get out of control and you're like, wait a minute, why didn't the refs do it? Because, there are very few mechanisms that inexperienced officials have at their disposal, which is probably from the league because you want to have it less ambiguous and more streamlined, especially when you consider the effect on gambling on games. You don't want to leave it in a gray area. But when you have the 2-minute reports, which I do like because it speaks to a level of accountability, it does lead to more questioning. It does lead to more, oh man, the replay that I saw last night, it shows these guys are incompetent. The one that I believe was most egregious was the Chauncey Billups calling a timeout. It is your job. It is your job when a coach runs up the sideline to call a timeout. I don't care if he left the coaching box, so to speak, and all that stuff. I don't care that a player is tied up. That's one of the things that you should have context for. Oh, they might want to call a timeout here. They're tied up. The player may want to call a timeout. The coach may want to call a timeout. Someone may want to call a timeout. You're not looking for collision, high-impact collision. So when Bill Kennedy, the lead ref who talked to the pool reporter, said, we're listening for, 1 to 3 things. We're looking for who's got the ball in contact and traveling. You should also be paying attention for someone calling a timeout. When you're not listening for a timeout when a player is going to the basket trying to dunk on someone, you're looking for contact, right? When, there's certain points of the game where I'm anticipating contact. I'm anticipating verticality. This is what I need to be looking for in case it happens or doesn't happen. When a player is tied up or close to getting tied up at a critical juncture of the game and it's near the baseline, you should be aware that either a player or a coach may call a timeout. You don't predetermine it. You don't blow your whistle before you hear anything, but you have to have your ears aware that something could happen. And Chauncey Billups is as cool as they come. You rarely see Chauncey Billups get worked up. So when I see him get worked up like he did last night, he firmly believes that he's done what was necessary in that moment. And this is what happens when you're bad, when you're a bad team. When you're a bad team, you feel like everything has to go right for you to win a game, and that people will be predisposed to believe that you are bad for the sake of being bad. So you're going to fight extra hard to ensure that you are giving yourself a fair shake, that the officials are giving you a fair shake, and that the team knows that you have their back. And for once last night, it looked as if the officials were unaware of game, time, and score. We tell players about that all the time, right? Be aware of time and score.
That's right.
The officials should be just as aware
situational
of time and
awareness
score in those situations.
Well, Vinny, we're out of time, but I just want to say this to you. Please come back next week so we can talk about the historic event of the Detroit Lions going to the Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions going to the Super Bowl. I love it. It's good. It's not just a storyline. It's not just emotions. It's the better football team that represents your hometown going to Vegas for the Super Bowl. How you feel about it? You gonna come back next week? We can talk about it?
They buying tickets to go to the Super Bowl? Is that what they doing? Is that how they gonna get there?
You got to get past that old relationship. You got to get past that old relationship. So you're in a new relationship now. You're safe now. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.